Just be stepped one particular.
Okay, all right. So I'm Steve Malloy. I'm with Edwards and Hotchkiss Architects. Chick-fil-A is our client. I guess I'll start with the site plan. I know it's kind of small right there, but one of the main things we do with the building is you've got a brick building, but it really is kind of, I'm going to say, integrated into the site, I think, very well, because if you've got the patio areas around the two sides of it. We have low walls elsewhere on the site. In some places that's kind of staggered with landscaping. So to me, just as a general comment, it's like the way the building sits into the site with the patios, with the landscaping, all of that's trying to work together over the whole site. Do we have ability to look at the building elevations? No, that's okay.
I don't know what happened here.
Okay. While David's working on that, I'll say, like, we did look at the Harris Teeter shopping center as like our main area of inspiration, I guess, for the bricks and the way the windows were set up, and they have like the metal standing seam roofs over there. So we tried to really use the same architectural language. So, for example, like the metal roofs that a lot of them use, we're proposing to have the awnings around our building be the same standing seam metal, so that we are duplicating or echoing that same language that we've got over there. The windows, we tried to have similar for that. The brick color, what we have spec right now is not an exact match for the Harris Teeter, but it's the same general basic red color. It's in that range. Rooftop units are screened.
Sorry, are you on the elevation?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
And then the top elevation is, I think, the important one. That is the one that faces Bees Ferry Road. So I do want to explain that a little bit. The Chick-fil-A, if you end up looking at the floor plan, which we don't need to look at it. That's fine. But it's like the kitchen is really big, and the kitchen ends up kind of wrapping around with the drive-through and all, almost like three sides of the building. And so the dining area is facing that middle parking lot. So this Bees Ferry Road side is the back of the kitchen. Oh, that's actually the top one. Thank you. Okay, so I was staying correct. Let's actually circle the top elevation. And yeah, you're right. Thanks. And so with those windows that we've got in there, the way it's set up is that is all kitchen. And so really we have plumbing, we have equipment on the other side of that wall. So we're proposing we have spandrel glass for the bottom part of it, but the upper section, like 7 foot and above, is the clear story windows. And those really are clear story windows all along every one of those, which is a lot, because Chick-fil-A does like to have the light, the natural light inside the building. So we are trying to utilize clear glazing where possible. The lower part of those is the spandrel, and that's just because it's the function of the kitchen. So I just kind of want to point that out. Thank you.
Did you want me to show the renderings here?
Oh, yeah, please. And so this, what we're looking at here is you've got the view of the patio. Below that is the canopy that we have, which just keep in mind that has a lot of landscaping in front of it. There's a lot of existing bushes that are out there. Plus, we're going to be doing additional landscaping in front of it, and then we have our dumpster close to it on there.
Yeah, that particular view will be buffered by the 50-foot buffer, the one at the lower left. So you really won't see much of that. That particular corner canopy's separate from the building, and the 50-foot buffer will screen that. And we're also probably going to put some shrubbery and things of that nature to help screen it even more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then this is really the main intersection. So this is
West Ashley before.
Yeah, West. Yes, thank you. So this is like probably the important view of that.
And that will be elevated slightly because of the difference in the elevation, so it'll actually accentuate the look. I think I have a grading and drainage plan, but I'm not sure if we could show it if you'd like to see it. But there'll be some topographic difference between the patio elevation and the street elevation.
About 2 feet.
Yeah, probably more than that. You can
You're
see
talking about
that
these contours right here.
Yeah.
If you can zoom in there, David, what they might want to see, but it's at least 3 feet or so at the nose of the building. So it'll kind of, it'd be very nicely, gently sloped. It'll be landscaped very well, but it'll, I think, accentuate the difference. Yeah, you can see several contours in there.
And then I'll just point out to the board, the canopy that you were just talking about is up here.
Mhm.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Move down on
Yeah, that's independent of
Yeah,
the
that
building.
box, right.
Yeah, and then there's one attached to the building or abuts the building where the pickup occurs.
Move into board questions. Any questions from the board?
I have a question. So you said the important view is the West Ashley Circle elevation, is that correct?
That's my.
That's the street view where the primary length of the building faces. I mean, all of them obviously are important, but
Yeah.
that is the one that has the most street frontage.
And all of the windows on that elevation are spandrel glass with clear story glass, is that right? Because that's the kitchen?
Not on that end. Well, no, I take that back. They are because we have restrooms on that end. So you have the back, the long side is kitchen, the whole length of it. And then on the bottom left, that is where you have, yeah, so.
And that's your service, your service, all your service equipment's on that facade
The
too, right?
electrical, it is, and we've got it painted to match the brick to try to make it kind of not stand out. But we do have it there.
And on the right side is where the pickup is. That's where the vehicles will button hook back into the pickup window. That was on the previous view. I'll look at that.
I had one
That's your
question. I had one question, but
Thank you.
where are you in the TRC process?
We've gone to conceptual and actually had some more coordination with them, but we were told basically, let's go to DRB, make sure that the site plan is not affected in a profound way, and then we'll go back into the TRC process when we're sure about that.
Okay.
Just assuming that you'll have no grand trees on the site.
I've been out there, I've walked it extensively. The survey indicates that there are no grand trees we were talking about removing, but I plan on getting Eric out and us walking together and verifying 100% that there is no grand trees. We all know that the pines are not grand. There's some pines that are over 24 inches, but we know that we're going to remove those.
Any additional questions? Right. Don't see any public comment. There was none turned into staff. So we will move into staff comments and recommendations.
Thank you. Staff observations, the height, scale, and mass of the building defines this location and for this use. The landscape plan's off to a good start. Staff comment number one, the applicant referenced the outbuildings at the adjacent West Ashley Circle Harris Teeter site as inspiration for this building design. The Harris Teeter buildings were reviewed by this board and were successful. The proposed buildings for this site does not seem as successful. Some of the difference with the Harris Teeter outbuildings that made them successful are, and I want to get to these outbuildings as well. These are what the applicant shared as inspiration for this building. But we found that with this building, there are more pronounced, more pronounced brick detailing, and the brick pilasters with significant offset, more storefront and fenestration that is deeper set. The upper level square windows that we're showing here let light into the space with high ceilings. More pronounced shed canopies, combination of gable and flat roof also makes these buildings attractive. Staff comment number 2, there is no backside to the proposed buildings where the utilities are mounted to the facade, where they could be better hidden. But staff does ask the applicant to study this and find a way to conceal the utilities a little better. Screen fence may be necessary. It's good that you've painted the utilities the same color as the brick, because we will ask for that, even if there is a screen fence necessary. Staff comment number 3, staff suggests studying the color scheme, question the use of the cream and red brick together. Although we understand this color combination is used on many of the Chick-fil-A stores. Staff comment number 4, there are no doors on the west Ashley side of the building. Access to the outdoor seating from the building is only provided by going all the way around the building to the parking lot side. Staff suggests providing a hallway and a door from inside the building to the outdoor seating area. Staff comment number 5, has a different direction. It looks like 5 and 6 got combined somehow. This is staff comment 5 though. As a different design direction, staff suggests looking at the original Chick-fil-A store in Appville, Georgia, as inspiration for this West Ashley Circle restaurant. We have a few images. Now this is like completely different and kind of out there, but I think this is a really cool design. I just wondered if maybe the applicants might look at this building for inspiration. I said minus this, the brick and the stone there, but I just thought this was really interesting design style. The butterfly roof and so forth. And then this is an inside image. You know, I was even thinking if you did something like this, the second level could be indoor seating for dining. Whereas this restaurant is just an open space to let light in, but it's also really nice design. Staff comment 7. Staff found another example of a Chick-fil-A that we also like much better presented. The building is much more interesting looking. So this is what I'm referring to here. It's just a random Chick-fil-A I found online. I just thought it was more innovative, interesting, like materials. It's kind of contemporary looking. I was just throwing that out as another design direction. Staff comment 9, staff prefers a wall as an enclosure for the outdoor seating as opposed to the proposed fencing. And I'm referring to this wall here, I think this would be much more attractive than metal fencing. And also what I pulled from this design was this trellis. I think this is a really cool idea. And this is kind of the same position from West Ashley Road that this restaurant kind of demonstrates. And the attached trellis I just found really interesting and how it's incorporated into the wall as well. Staff comment number 10. Zoning requires 49 parking spaces for this restaurant. The applicants are providing 76 spaces, 23 over what zoning requires. It's DRB policy that the applicant provides pervious pavers in the same amount of space that they go over what zoning requires. The applicants are already providing 20 pervious spaces, so we just need 3 more added to equal what they've gone over at the park. Staff comment number 11. Because of the large amount of paving at this site and not enough proposed green space, staff asked that the applicant provide triangle tree planters at minimum 4 parking spaces parallel to the southwest facade. So on the parking lot side of the building, this is something that we ask the applicants of quite a bit. There are these triangular type planters that require very little space for the trees and palmettos. Don't need very much space, but this is something that could go right against the facade of the building that faces the parking lot. Staff comment number 12. Studied the car canopy at the car stacking lanes. Both the attached and detached car canopy could be more integrated with the building design. Staff comment 13, it would be helpful if the underground utility layers was turned off on the site landscape plans so that the plans would be easy to read. Staff comment 14, not all the landscape layers are turned off on the site plan and should be. There was some landscape turned on for the site plan that the meeting match with the landscape plan. Staff comment number 15, the fencing at the perimeter of the outdoor seating is shown on the edge of the hardscape. But would be better if the posts were just off the hardscape and on the edge of the landscape bed.
Could you repeat that, sir?
Sure, the fencing, let me actually go through that plan so I can show you. So if you do that on the outdoor seating area, your fencing that you have right along this edge here is actually going into the hardscape. It would be better if it's just off the hardscape under the landscape.
That's railing, by the way. It's a picket railing.
Right. Or no fencing?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the posts that go down in the ground or going through hardscape would be better if it was just in the hardscape. Let's see. And the screen wall that you're showing over here, which is good, what we asked for to screen parking lot from the street. We just asked if the wall, we recommend the wall be continuous and not broken. Staff comment 17, the north arrow on the landscape plan is incorrect. And staff comment 18, signage will be a separate review with a separate application at the end of the building review process.
Could you repeat the comment before the signage?
So the north arrow on the landscape plan is incorrect.
Oh.
But with these comments, we do recommend denial for the building design direction and site conditions noted. Especially if one of the other directions not working.
Okay, do you have any response or clarification to staff's comments?
Just, like one of them with adding trying to get a hallway or something like that to where we can get people out to the patio easier. Like that's something we can go back and study. So that's, yes, we'll definitely look at that. And I did understand and hear about like overhangs and windows and some of that, those language features.
With that, we'll move into board discussion.
I have one other question.
Yes, sir.
I know, David, you had some concepts that Chick-fil-A, had other parts of the country. I assume we're not bound by that as long as we can get this building to meet the requirements of the Ashley plan, and particularly the architecture across Bees Ferry, because some of those concepts didn't have any brick at all. They were more stucco and things of that nature, which I'm not sure if you guys want that in this particular area. So,
Yeah, I think that'll be determined after the discussion.
Okay, move into board discussion and a motion.
Let me know if you want to go to a certain spot.
I'll go first, Mr. Chair, if that's okay. I do agree with the staff comments. I do feel like that the design direction needs to be rethought. The question of the important facade and it's not spandrel glass, it just kind of answers it to itself. And almost apologizing for the canopies. I feel like there's a lot of good things that could be brought from this. The brick, some of the detailing, soldier coursing, that kind of thing. But I think we need it almost needs more of a presence on West Ashley Circle and Bees Ferry. That's a pretty prominent intersection. And I feel like it needs more, I don't want to say rigor, but more thought put into into that site and how the building is affected by its site and by that intersection. I think some of the images David was showing that might be brought into this rather than doing a butterfly roof is something just like simple verticality for the main entrance or something, generate something that's a little different rather than a simple box with a 1 or 2 foot parapet that distinguishes the entrance or main features. Yeah, what else did I write? The canopies really caught my eye. I think that's become a common thing when we're reviewing is try to make the canopies more integrated into the building instead of a pre-manufactured aluminum canopy. It doesn't have to have just a 4x4 or 6x6 aluminum post. It could be a brick post and with nice detailing that is integral into the building. I think David showed a sample of that. But no, I don't think, at least me personally, I don't think stucco is off the table. I think brick and stucco are great materials that you find all throughout Charleston and the region. So to me personally, I don't think you have to do a building that's 100% brick. But I do agree with board comments and the motion. That's it. Next.
Thank you. I know there's a question about the brick detailing, and I actually I previously served on the West Ashley Revitalization Commission before joining the Design Review Board. And we haven't published the complete findings, but we were basically breaking down West Ashley into different neighborhood sub areas to provide a little bit more guidance on the detail of what we expect from a design standpoint. And I think that one of the things that we're trying to avoid is everything looking the same, particularly out in this area that's new development that can be a bit more contemporary. And so I think from staff's comments and the main architect present this evening, that might be a direction to go moving forward. I think that there's so much potential at this site, and what we're looking at is very vanilla. I'm not an architect, so I can't, speak as eloquently as Ben can on this, but I think, the site plan and everything, I realize you're working with a lot here, and I would love to give you guys a firm, yes on that so that you can further explore the design part of it. It doesn't sound like that might be the direction tonight, but I do think there's a lot more potential with the building. And to what Ben said about the canopies, if you would review some of the conversations that we've had about gas stations, I think that will provide a lot of productive commentary for you guys to work with in terms of what we might expect that to look like when you come back to us.
Agreed with everything. I think it reads, when I first looked at it as a prototype, whether it is or not. And I think, really the goal of our board is to make sure when projects leave our board, they look unique to the site and to Charleston and in the area that it sits.
We keep talking about, what's going on across the street of the Harris Teeter. But the Harris Teeter has the Harris Teeter anchoring it, and the outbuildings are kind of reacting to that. And even at that time, I don't think it was that, there were some disagreements from the board about that Harris Teeter. I think there's plenty in this area to draw from that has another language, that if you come in with something different, that you have those opportunities to make your own place with reflecting the languages around you. To tell you the truth, the site plans are kind of hard to, at a scale looking at it. There's a lot of information on the site plans that we probably would be great on the actual site plan to scale back and just give us something for us to look at. That, maybe doesn't have as much dimensioning, doesn't have the stormwater, that sort of stuff. And then on the landscape plan, it'd be great if that was at the same scale as the site plans, at a different scale. I do think that in general, the landscape palette is off to a good start. I would say with as much paving as you have, the idea of breaking that up with some intermittent planters as staff have asked for is not a bad idea. I just don't think it's there yet. I just don't think the project as it is.
Are there any concerns about the placement?
On site of the building. I mean, to me, the dumpster location needs to be reconsidered. That's like right at the knuckle. That's like the view you see right at where West Ashley Circle and Beast Ferry intersect. You see the backside of the dumpster.
Yeah, interject.
I understand there are trees that block it, but if those trees died or if that was an open view, that's a clear.
Yeah, those buffers
Clear
can
view.
get pretty thin once you clear out what's behind them. I mean, no matter how big they are.
May I make a comment about
No,
that?
no, sir.
Or is it not?
This is board discussion.
I think the placement of the building makes sense. Answer your question, but you mentioned that it originally was proposed, maybe tucked back in the side or something. I think that's one of the main issues is that the building. I don't know the process, but it does, from a planning perspective and from the exterior design, it does look like a building that was almost just slid over to a different part of the site, but it's such a prominent location on the site. The site's fairly prominent. I agree with stuff. I think it justifies a more, slightly more dramatic approach. And I would even, I wouldn't emphasize the drawing inspiration from the context as much. Maybe like it's always good to look at what's around, but it is a real opportunity for
Well, that's I think what I'm saying is that you could make a statement
I think this is the opportunity.
without having to worry about what's there.
yeah.
I mean, you could do a material language, but not.
Right. And it's the perfect place and time for that. Since history. Now, obviously realizing that the other Chick-fil-A that staff showed us, they might be too ambitious, and there's obviously economy involved. But I think just revisiting the most basic part to the diagram of the building, because again, it looks like it was kind of just floated from the back of the site. Revisiting the basic diagram of the building would help a lot.
We have a motion.
I'd make a motion for denial based on design direction, just as staff commented. But and I guess, do you have to do staff comments of this denial? I would just say denial, design direction.
Maybe ask a question?
Let us get through the motion, and then we have a second. We have a motion for denial from Ben, a second by Lucas. I'll call roll. Aaron?
Before we
Yeah.
take roll, is there anything else that wasn't mentioned in staff comments that you think that we should give in terms of further comment?
What do you mean? Like send them an email with the staff comments?
No, I mean, we talked about the site plan and the location of the building. Obviously, David had an extensive list, but Anytime we're giving a denial, I want to just kind of make sure that we can provide as much comment as possible for, and not necessarily in the motion, but just if there's anything else that's a red flag that's glaring in the
I
submission.
hope they've been taking note. I mean, this is recorded too, right?
We have to share this stuff.
We have been taking notes.
Yeah, that's what it's asked. I'd like to share the staff comments. So, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote down.
Aaron,
Yes, in favor.
Ashley,
Yes, in favor.
Yes, in favor.
I am also yes in favor. Thank you. Do you have any other questions?
So, representative, like, say.
Yeah, so just appreciate y'all taking time to go through this and wanted to let you know, we hear what you're saying, we hear the comments. We'll go back, we'll address, we had started out with some stucco and some different things, but we had been given direction to go kind of take a look at what was around. That was our inspiration. We can go back and take a look at things from an architectural standpoint. From a site layout standpoint, that's the biggest question that I have. Because that, and I don't know if we have a chance to talk about that or if that's, okay, that's fine, I just wanted to ask.
Yeah, I think the feedback that you got, that the building, I think everyone agreed that the building was in the right location. I mean, that's,
Okay, that's perfect.
I think that was a consensus between the board. So that should give you at least some decent feedback there.
Dumpster location, we're gonna look at that. We're gonna look at several things, and from an architectural standpoint, we'll come back. But I wanted to make sure that I heard that. That's what I heard, but I wanted to make sure I was correct in that. I didn't want to assume anything. All right, so thank y'all for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna let the professionals take over.
Stay there and I'll just.
I've been using this. I don't have a cheat sheet.
Sorry.
Oh, no worries.
I was really lost there at the beginning. We had to start over.
He started to read the minutes from that.
Yeah. I was like, there's gotta be something here. Yeah.
He figured it out pretty quickly.
Any port in a storm, you know?
So this document is important.
All right, next on the agenda is item number 2, Ashley River Road and Waterfowl Lane, requesting conceptual approval for a new townhome community with 9 units. David, do you have any overview or anything?
Yes, if I can direct you to the screen, show the location of the site. You see where it is off Ashley River Road, West Ashley. A little closer view. This image shows the phase 1 of this project, which is already built. And here's Waterfowl, which is now completed, which you'll see in my street view in a moment. This is the names area. And so the townhomes are gonna actually sit right in here between the fire station and the strip mall. And then here's a view into the site. The townhomes are gonna be right about here, and then this is the new Waterfowl Street. The other way, get into the site, this is where the townhomes are set. It's a pretty small site. With that, I'll turn over to the applicant.
Good evening, my name is Tony Berry with TBC Development, and I'm with tonight representatives from Stantec, who did our landscape architecture, who's an architect of record. This is a proposed new construction townhome community for sale. It is adjacent to an existing or under construction townhome community that we're calling Bermuda Point, that actually is a public-private partnership with the City of Charleston and Charleston Redevelopment Corporation. It is 40 newly constructed townhomes, of which 30 of the 40 are income restricted to those earning no more than 80 to 120% of the area median income. We've been under construction site work there for about a year and a half, started vertical construction in the last 6 months, and are on track to deliver our first townhomes toward the end of the year. So this is an adjacent parcel that we own, that as I understand, based on its frontage of Ashley River Road, it is required to come before DRB. Our goals, these will all be market rate for sale. So our goals are these will blend with the townhomes that are adjacent to them and under construction. We intend to fold these into the adjacent community that's under construction, so they'll be all part of the same HOA. And at the end of the day, with the 40 that's under construction and these 9 would make 49, one of our goals is that, when someone comes into the community, you do not be able to differentiate between which townhomes are market rate and which townhomes are workforce. The phase is under construction. In every building, there's an 80, 100, 120 AMI income restricted and a market rate. So, and I know that we had inclinations that the Ashley River Road frontage would be important as well. So we did try to take some of that again. So try to understand that.
Afternoon, everyone. So, looking a little bit more closely at our site plan.
Could you state your name for the record? Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Christina Granlund. I'm a landscape architect at State Tech. And so the existing site, as you can see, is rather small. There's a very large existing live oak that you saw in the Google Earth image that we have done our best to minimize impact to that oak and also treat it as a very important site amenity. There's also a couple of existing live oaks that will be retained along Ashley River Road as well. So what we've done with this site plan is all of the units will, much like phase 1, will have individual driveways. There's a couple of extra parking spots available. There's some pedestrian circulation, and there is landscaping. With the exception of the sod, all of the species that we're proposing on the plan are native species, and the sod is also a heat tolerant as well. So we've accentuated the landscape planting in this particular plan, partially due in response to Ashley River Road. So there's shrub foundations and palms within the site footprint around the townhomes themselves. But then also looking at Ashley River Road, we've got a large 50-foot buffer there, which we've planted pretty generously with shrubs that have seasonal interest. So it's a mix of flowering deciduous shrubs, evergreen, broadleaf evergreen, and then some shade trees as well. And that also has a path running through it. So that maintains connectivity for pedestrians along Ashley River Road, provides buffering, but also accentuates the townhomes. Since technically it's the rear of the townhome there, we wanted to use the landscaping as a mechanism to still make it inviting, still make it accentuated, to read a little bit more like a front on that side. There's also buffering that's a little bit more dense that'll be provided between the townhomes and the business that's on the other side. And then it will integrate with a couple of open lawn panels for residents with the rest of the phase 1 development. Slide.
Just let me know where you'd like to finish this slide.
Go ahead and 8201. Hey, I'm Drake Cecil, speaking on behalf of Vignette Architecture. Good evening. So just to kind of build on what Tony said, this is kind of the goal is for this to be an extension of phase 1 and to maintain the full plan of phase 1, but to just sort of put a little bit more of an emphasis on the Ashley River Road side, just to sort of address that entire facade and make it look a little bit more pronounced than phase 1 of the rear. So we did that just by introducing a few bit more architectural details and elements that are sort of seen in this area, just coastal inspired brackets and overall detail elements like that. If you want to also go to A902, you can see there's a sort of pairing of the phase 1 project and phase 2, just to show you the difference on the rear elevation, which is furthermost to the right between phase one and phase two, just trying to again, do a little bit more with the roof line and introduce a few more architectural details.
Anything else? Any questions from the board?
I have a, go ahead, Lucas.
The front back situation here, I'm not too familiar with the parcel, but yeah.
So you pull this way.
Yeah.
The garage entries are this way. And this is really kind of the back of the building, which makes it nice.
Yeah, and townhomes are one of those things where there's only a few things you can do in terms of plan. But this does seem set up where that new road, for lack of a better word, would become essentially an alley, the back where the cars go, and the fronts would be facing the street. So I'm curious what the thinking was there to kind of make it an insular development like that, rather than make what is currently the fronts facing each other, the backs, and not make the backs the fronts.
So a lot of it's floor plan driven. Excuse me. The way you have to, the way the stairs, if you look at the floor plan, the way the stairs lay out,
Yeah, that's what I was looking at.
it just would take a total. So I think we are open to someone walking or driving down Ashley River Road, looking at the building and not thinking it's the rear. I think this was kind of, we go back to that, this is the rear elevation. Go to A203. So I think the goal is, if there's certain things we need to look at or study, this isn't a floodplain, so the entire first floor is non-conditioned space. So no matter what's the front or what's the back, the entire first floor is basically the garage and just storage space. So the goal was to try to at least make the back have a door, have a window. The window's kind of on the second level. If you look at the floor plan, that's the kitchen. So that's a window. The far left window is in a half bath, and the other window is in kind of a nook where there's an opening in cabinets. And of course, we put a double window in the bedroom.
No, I understand all that. It's like that townhouse plan could easily be just mirrored, and there's plenty of precedence for rear-loaded townhouse plans with the garage door, but the front is on the other side. It would mean switching the stair and everything. But I just was wondering if there was a particular attitude towards the road that made you want it to be the back and this new road to be the front, like at a very kind of macro level. It was just the product of floor plan.
I think with the goal being have a driveway, just 20-something feet and then a drive aisle. If we turned the building would probably have to be pushed back. You're thinking another 40 feet, 20 feet for the driveway, and then a certain amount for a drive aisle. So I guess we thought bringing the building out as far to the edge to kind of create that edge of Ashley River Road was what might have been more desirable. And then the way the rest of the community is built, David I think you had a Google, that's the way when you look at the rhythm down the new waterfowl lane we built, all of the townhomes are built perpendicular to waterfowl, with the fronts sharing kind of it's more of a street than an alley, but they're having,
Is this what you wanted to do?
I thought I saw you had a picture of a street view. Google.
Just these.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, but when you go down Waterfowl Lane, all of the townhomes that are on the right-hand side and left-hand side of the new road, these two buildings look like they're part of the rhythm of what's being built right down the
Flip to the site.
I-
I don't know if you're looking for something else.
Perhaps any questions?
Thank you, sorry.
I know we don't have purview over the inside, but am I correct that you have, if you park your car in the garage, you have to go outside and to get into the front door?
No, the way the floor plan's set is, the way it is now, is guests actually have a defined access to go in a door and up a stair valve. Because there's an overhang which makes it probably misleading, but that door is the exterior of the building. So you physically go in, but you'll actually, as you can tell, have to come out to go inside. There's no internal access from the garage.
And that was, we'll get to it in more discussion, but that's one of the benefits of potentially flipping it, is that there could be access, but that's not really our.
Yeah, can you go to the site plan? Not the rendered one, but just one that shows like that, or go back one. So those doors that are facing the road just go out onto, there's no like pathway or anything, they just go onto a landing, is that right?
Yeah, they just have a 5x5 pad outside the back door and no sidewalk.
And there's not, but there, it's just a 5x5 pad there.
Now, are these contours, this is gonna be a steep slope?
Yeah, so to answer your question, that there is actually a stormwater swale that runs through there. It actually will convey the flow from the site into the stormwater pond that's being built as part of phase one.
So what if it's just a, I guess this is kind of maybe what Lucas asked, but maybe not. If we just have the 5x5 concrete pad there, what's the point of the doors to that side of the, is it just?
Purely elevation. On the other ones, they're windows with eyebrows.
So it's just the look of a door, not actually having the intention of a door there.
It's a full functioning door.
Right, but
But it doesn't open up into, it opens up into back of the garage.
It is
ditch.
something that staff asked for, because the other
Yeah.
ones didn't have a back door, and we just thought since this was facing us, remember, the appearance of a door.
But it's just for the appearance, it's not actually a functional thing, really.
So the other plans, you can only enter the garage through the garage door?
That's exactly right.
So is this a street back here too, or is it just a?
But there's, for what it's worth, there's also a lot of water, sewer, and storm drain easements. Basically, the only developable footprint we have is where you see the two buildings. We can't slide that one building back, and we can't slide the building on the street forward. And we originally had 10 units, and it actually ended up losing one unit called the tree. So the amount of room we have to construct units is literally the footprint of those two buildings in the drive aisle.
Can we see the site plan one more time? Sorry, I keep trying to make sense of the things. So,
But Jenny was saying, connecting those doors and covers, providing a sidewalk out from the townhome to the sidewalk you see, and even doing some fencing there that almost would create what, can we do fencing in setback?
not in
Okay, but we can do landscaping and we could do a hedge though.
We could, I'm Jenny Moore with CNTAC. We can look at connecting sidewalks from those patio, that 5x5 patio to the public right-of-way sidewalk. And we can do the same as well.
Isn't there, did y'all say there's a drainage swale
There's
going
a
through there?
swell, and we've got some contours that we've got to work
through, and we can study that some more to understand if I can pipe it or do something, but I do believe we can do something. I don't know what the solution is yet, but,
And then on the other side, is it the same condition over there?
well, no, it's not the same condition, but it's flat, so we can do something more, like a gardenscape.
But there it's-
next.
It's also just a 5x5 pad and it doesn't
Yeah.
connect. There's not a sidewalk along Thriving
There's not
Way,
a- No, yeah, along Waterfowl there is, so we
but
can
not
do
Thriving
something.
Way.
Mhm.
Is there a sidewalk not on either side of that road, I guess?
No. But there might be an opportunity for us to study that a bit more. From a pedestrian standpoint. with the community and those-
I have a couple questions.
Sorry, I keep asking, I'm just trying to make sense of this. So here, this is an easement? Is
Sewer
that right?
easement,
Sewer
yeah.
easement, okay. Sure. Sure.
And I've got a couple of questions, Madam Chair. The two windows on what you call the left elevation on the second floor, is there a reason why they're so much smaller than the other standard size windows you got around the building?
Yeah, so just mainly for the function of the bedroom, having a bed and a side table, not being so close to the actual edge of the window, just dropping them down that size gives it a little bit more freedom to have a bed on that wall. It's not so cramped.
Okay.
Elevation, like, I don't need to look into it, but floor plan it looks a little bit better.
Next question is, I take it the exterior veneer, the fiber cement, the horizontal and the board and batten are all in the same plane. You just delineate by a vertical piece of siding to change direction. Is that correct? There's no undulation, right?
I think that was maybe my issue on it, handoff from the architect of the civil. We have, I think it's either a 6-inch or 12-inch step in the buildings that we're building in the adjacent phase. So creating some undulation between the units is absolutely possible. And actually what we're doing next door, we looked at that when we were coming in, I saw that they were all kind of a box. So we can create, some articulation between the units.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
One quick one, is it, there's no parapet, is this a shaft wall, party wall?
Okay, with no public comments, David, staff recommendations, please.
Thank you. Staff observations. Height scale maps of the townhomes are adjacent to one-story buildings, but seems okay for this location. Also, the height scale mass matches phase one, which is already built. Staff supports the design direction and materials for the townhomes. Landscape plan is looking good. The backs of these townhomes units face Ashley River Road, which is not ideal, but this is a small, challenging site. For this reason, staff did have the applicants add cables and doors to the backs of the units that phase one's buildings did not have. The applicants are proposing a nice buffer landscape planting between units and Ashley River Road. Staff comment one, regarding the massing of the units, staff suggests an offset of around 1 foot from one unit to the next. Staff comment two, for the end unit elevation, staff suggests adding another window in the first floor living room. We also suggest another window be added to each of the unit bedrooms. The end unit bedrooms. And same question that Lucas asked, is there a reason why these bedroom windows cannot be full-size windows? You did answer that. Number three, for the back facade, staff suggests that the pair of windows on the first floor be centered or symmetrical. That's referring to these windows. Now, I do realize, looking at the floor plan, that this cannot be achieved with the current interior layout, being the bathroom and the sink, I think, But we do ask that this be studied to possibly be able to center the windows, as Rob said. Staff comment number 4, staff's suggestion to improve the back of the units. One suggestion we have is possibly extending the canopy that's at the back of the units to be over the window as well. And then possibly the patio pad gets extended to match that canopy extension. We did recommend deferral, but as I had stated earlier, I'm on the fence about this one that could be conceptual approval recommendation as well.
Thanks, David. Is there anything you'd like to clarify or respond to from staff comments?
Study and address everything.
Okay, thanks. We are now in board discussion and a motion.
I'll just say thanks, David, for clarifying that you were on the fence. Seeing deferral as a recommendation is always a struggle for me, as I think everybody here knows, so. I feel like we should, make some kind of decision one way or the other, so hopefully we can do that this evening.
I think the high scale and mass is good. I think they fit. Massing works together nicely. Just some architectural things, and David brought it up with the that undulation. I agree. If you're going to use that kind of siding that's right next to each other, I'd almost be inclined to not do that. I think it would look, simplified and just do horizontal siding throughout. To me, I feel like it makes it a cleaner looking building rather than so busy. One thing that it really caught my eye and it's bothering me is the end columns on the for the buildings. They're almost non-existent. It almost feels like the building's going to sag at the ends. You've got these really thick, bulky, stucco columns in the middle and next to nothing at the ends. I definitely would restudy that to give it some kind of grounding at the ends. I would enlarge the two windows on the second floor. I agree it could use some more fenestration on those two ends as well. And I agree with my landscape colleagues who are talking about that front door that's kind of a front door to nowhere. I think that needs some kind of design effort put into it rather than just an aesthetic door from the main road. I think it could be a good idea if that's a door, but
Do you not think it's back?
it needs to be used. Yeah, right. That's the front door is actually on the other side.
I think the building's back.
I was going to say that with it being so close to football season, I'll make an analogy of when you have two quarterbacks, you don't have any quarterback. Right here, we kind of have
It's not making
two
a
fronts.
decision. Yeah.
Or two backs actually, with no
No front.
direction.
Yeah.
The thing is, if you just flip it, keep the garage door on the back, there's plenty of opportunity to enter from what now would be the front that we're looking at, and to have a non-conditioned vestibule with a door, with a commuting door between the garage and the entry vestibule.
I think that's really kind of what my statement was. I think they need to emphasize a front.
And then all the function, because the plan flips all the function, the bay windows or the facade on what is now the back becomes the back.
So what I understand you're saying, keep the garage doors where they are, but flip everything else essentially with the floor plan.
Just let the back be a service alley, for lack of a better word, and that you emphasize the front.
And I think that needs to be also emphasized and reflected in the site plan and not just have the little 5x5 pads.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure you guys agree that because that's a pretty.
No, I agree completely with it. It just, I also think that the site plan is so insular. Looking at this set of plans, it's hard to, we're talking about this stuff that's in the back. We're talking about River Road. And I know there's a streetscape, but you know, we're kind of focused on this, you know, as you're kind of looking at this like this, and there's no context to, you know, and we talk about this a lot with, there's no context to what's going on. So it's hard to, you know, to get out of that picture sometimes. But, you know, we're missing the connections. We're missing, you know, how do you connect to the back? How do you connect to River Road? And I agree with Lucas. I think it just needs to look at that there's a front. And
Is there any reason that couldn't be possible to flip the floor plan? Keep the garage door, keep the site plan where it is, and essentially flip the floor plan so that the front on Ashley River Road is more of a front, and then the front on, and I'm forgetting the name of the street that's behind. Yes, is on the front essentially. So again, you're not changing anything with the vehicular patterns, but you're changing of what would be the front. And then,
And I would piggyback on that. Is there, like, are we allowed to ask questions?
not really, but yes.
Where do you picture guests parking? Is there,
So to answer your question, there's one additional space that's near the southern side of the lot, and then there's also a full 18-foot parking space between the garage and the edge of that complex there. So you can technically fit two to each driveway, but a lot of people, with the exception of that. 2 cars.
So isn't this tandem parking as well? Is that what you just said?
Yes.
Yeah.
but there's, I mean, I don't think anything we're asking them to do is jeopardizing parking.
no, I want to make sure that Ashley River Road and Waterfowl or Ashley River Road does justify it being the front.
I mean, the only thing to think about is that there is a really large buffer and they are somewhat set back. You know, it's not like a building right up on the street that would be addressing the street. I'm not saying that that's a reason not to, but it is different.
There's a sidewalk there.
They're building a sidewalk, and that's a planted buffer.
Right.
I mean, it's you're not right up on Ashley River Road,
Yeah.
but, you know,
But I think if we're building a sidewalk and then we have no way to connect from these units to the sidewalk, that really bothers me.
I think
from
it's
site.
possible. I've done a project before where you just add in, like, assuming it's not a existing drainage easement, correct? It's a new one that's being proposed or a new
Oh,
swale.
yeah, it's possible.
You could
It's just
do-
not done.
Yeah. Like
I
a
know, I
12
know
inch
it's
pipe or,
possible.
you know, yeah.
No, it's completely possible. I just think that's a flaw of what's being proposed
Yeah,
tonight,
agreed.
is that they're designing a sidewalk with no connection to that sidewalk.
Yeah, agreed.
I'll just say, if I'm understanding what you're saying.
Sorry, unless we're saying something incorrect, we're in board discussion, sorry.
So are you guys saying you, just from a design perspective, prefer the more prominent features to be on the interior of the site?
No, Ashley River Road, the exterior.
Okay.
If you just picture it as a tartan, like a grid, and you have your thickness of streets, the thicker ones are generally going to be where frontage is.
Right.
Restore lanes.
Also, are you only asking for this on the Ashley River?
no, we're asking
I
both
think
sides.
No, I think they would mirror each other, right?
Yeah.
Because on the other side, your front door would just be going out to a very small lawn area and then a driveway to the next.
Well, but I think during discussion or during presentation, they said that they could study putting a sidewalk out there. I mean, or a path or something.
And it's more of a lawn than what's on Restore Lane.
I think, my opinion is we leave it as, you know, I think our discussion is clear to study it, you know? I mean, that's my
Yeah.
thought.
That's what I would
And let,
say
I
too.
don't, you know,
Because I could argue that you could make it work just like it is if you continued sidewalks out to the main road and,
Yeah,
you know, had a commuting door from the.
I think the architectural language of the back is that it's back. It's the back.
Yeah, the front could use some help, I agree. The front.
And that's what I'm saying, is that if you're going to make those gestures, go ahead and go for, you know, make it the front. And, you know, generally, you know, from a site box diagram, there's not much they can do. It is more of how they're treating
Right.
the
agreed.
it's really, it's architectural direction and landscape architectural direction.
And
I wouldn't even say, I wouldn't even say are we asking them to change the architectural direction? It's more,
I think we are on the front, how they treat that front. I think, I mean,
part of the building facing Ashley River Road.
yeah, and then we also, from the direction, we feel like the buildings need to undulate a little bit.
Yeah.
And the depth that's expressed on what is currently, let's call it Restore Lane, not that. The depth there is introduced that on the other facade, and that is really what helps signify front or back.
And so, you know, I know we've had this discussion a number of times, is, you know, in this, I'm kind of going the opposite direction from David, is, you know, as a deferral, which is, we've always kind of used as a denial light. You know, you're going in the right direction, but study these things. Or is it a denial? I mean, it feels like there's not enough there for a true denial for me.
I don't see that at all.
Yeah, I really do think it is the deferral of study these things, and I guess that's this board is always used to deferrals a little something different, you know, than other boards, you know, defer it because there's something missing. We kind of defer it. You're on the right track, but you're not there yet.
Right. I guess if we're just talking about how we're treating the facade that's facing the road, I wonder if we couldn't provide the comment with conceptual. I think it's more than just the facade though.
I think they need to study the plan a little
The
bit.
site plan too.
Yeah, it's just not right, because, you know, once we give conceptual, then we really, you know, technically only have it. And it's just, it just doesn't, I don't think, rise to that.
And the architect needs to figure out if they want to do undulations or if they want to do the same material and in the same plane. What's going to make it, you know, read as a building, a unique building? I mean, because like I said, on the front side, the columns almost look like they should be, you know, the columns almost look like they should be here, since that reads as one piece, same thing as this. This reads as one piece. But I mean, I see how they're equidistant, but, you know, and then have something at the end. If this is going to be one piece that you want it, bring that out, like David said in his comments. If not, do something different.
Yeah, there's some plain old issues going on there.
Is there a motion?
I'd make a motion for deferral. Staff comments 1 through 4. I'd say study the suggestion to flip the plan. What were some of the other comments?
Right access.
Study articulation of materials on the exterior. Study site circulation. Pedestrian access. What else am I missing, guys?
The columns.
Yeah, the column. Study the end column. Study fenestration.
Isn't that in staff comments?
Oh, is it? Yeah, it is, yes. Well, staff comment asked, is there a reason these bedroom windows cannot be full size? I would say board comment would be make the windows larger. Study fenestration. So yeah, I think that works.
I'm sorry.
Even if that became the back.
I think if it became the back, yeah, you study it and that could be smaller, right? Yeah. Anything else?
So we have a motion for deferral, staff comments 1 through 4, board comments 1, study the suggestion to flip the floor plan, 2, study the articulation of materials on the exterior, 3, study pedestrian access and site circulation, 4, study the end columns, and 5, study fenestration. Cover it. Is there a second? Any further discussion?
I'll just state for the applicant and to reiterate my longstanding position that I'll be voting against the motion, not because I disagree with any of the comments, just because ideologically I believe that we can give you a conceptual approval, put it on your back to come back with a successful plan that takes these comments into account, and give you an opportunity to keep moving in the process, as opposed to now we have to come back and have the conceptual conversation again. Certainly you can take the risk of putting the plans all the way to preliminary, but we understand how that works. So for what that's worth.
I'll call roll. Aaron?
Yes.
Ashley?
No.
I am yes in favor, and I think I skipped you, Lucas. Sorry, Lucas. All right, thank you very much. Last on the agenda is approval of minutes from the August 7th, 2023 meeting. Thank you. Andy is our second.
I'm gonna recuse myself because I wasn't here.
Okay. Any further discussion? Lucas?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes, in favor.
I'm also yes in favor.
And was the second?
Yes.
This reminds me.
Drainage for that.
That's what I figured, but I was like, as the expert, she's sitting right here.